It isn't always Shakespeare, but it's genuine, proclaims Ed Harris's Christoph in his opening speech about the fundamentals behind the reality television show based on the life of Truman Burbank, The Truman Show, created for the purpose of conspicuous consumption by fans around the globe. From a visionary story by Andrew Niccol, responsible for such work as 1997's Gattaca, Steven Spielberg's The Terminal, and 2011's In Time, to name a few, Niccol's concentration is always on the plight of the individual, and with Truman, this is no exception. It was director Peter Weir, most notable for his beautiful work on Dead Poets Society, who took Niccol's idea and launched it onto audiences 20 years ago this year. At the time, the concept was radical, a reality television show with audiences following the life of one individual in a confined space 24/7. Yet with hindsight, the film's success undoubtedly paved the way for the inundation of reality television shows pervading our television screens still today, Big Brother leading the way. Maintaining the facade, Noah Emmerich and Laura Linney, playing meta roles within Truman's life as his best friend and wife respectively, comment in Vox Pops that The Truman Show is a lifestyle, it's a noble life, as well as astutely and ironically summarising The Truman Show as nothing fake, it's merely controlled. The sense of control and limitation can be attributed to Weir's extraordinary casting of, up to then, comedic actor Jim Carrey, famous for outlandish comedies like The Mask and Dumb and Dumber. Here, Carrey gives quite possibly the best performance of his career to date as our protagonist, the star of the show, the only true man in this story. He is controlled down to the minutest of details by show creator Christoph, the character name itself suggesting a deity to be worshipped, who paradoxically manipulates every moment and decision made in Truman's life. We open Truman's story at day 10,909 of The Truman Show, a show we're quick to learn has been transmitted live every one of those days, chronicling Truman's life, from his birth to his childhood, to his teenage years, his marriage, and now his adult life. Truman is approaching 30 when we meet him on just another run-of-the-mill day at the office, or so we're led to believe. Carrey gets a catchphrase as this character. Good morning, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. And he appears instantly likeable. Despite the fact that everyone knows him on this artificial-looking, though entirely real, island of Sea Haven, he is instantly approachable, and were it not for the fact that everyone clamours to get into conversation with him so they can have their 5 minutes of fame on the TV show, he would otherwise be a charming, though very plain personality. Nothing about Truman screams celebrity. It's all down to what audiences have imbued on the man. Were audiences to not buy into The Truman Show and not invest their time by tuning in every day, there would be no show. Once again, it's the everyman that appeals to audiences, and Carrey plays on this brilliantly, generating sympathy at every possible turn and being so engaging throughout. No stone has been left unturned in Truman's world. There are extras making sure they go about their daily routines, vendors selling food and drink and newspapers and magazines, and authentic-looking businesses. But for Truman, it's clear to see that he wants more from life. He wants to travel, to get off the island and explore. Of course, his family and friends try to deter him from following this ambition at every step. If Truman leaves, the show is over. The first sign for Truman that things aren't all they seem is when he witnesses a film canister falling from the sky. Having also given us a flashback to a scene where a young Truman is out at sea during a storm with his father, and his father seemingly drowns, Truman next sees a man on the street that looks remarkably like his estranged father. The two of them are quickly separated by the show's extras before they can reunite. Peter Bezu's cinematography is both intimate and vast, capturing everything in Truman's vicinity at all times. There's nowhere for Truman to hide where he won't be captured by one of the show's hundreds of cameras. And composing collaborators Burkhard von Dorwitz and Philip Glass craft an oftentimes melancholic yet hopeful score around this central character. The film is shot in soft focus through the audience's POV, observing Truman at all times. It's invasive, and you feel like you shouldn't be watching everything this one character is doing, and yet, like the show's audiences around the world, you're compelled to keep watching. It's voyeurism at its strongest. Product placement is another key part of The Truman Show. As the show doesn't contain advertisements, products have to be advertised within the show by various characters, whether it's Laura Linney's deadpan delivery to camera every time as Truman's wife Meryl showing off a new product she's just bought, or the two men who stop Truman on his way to work and push him up against a billboard advertising chicken. This motif is used to great effect throughout the film. The MacGuffin for Truman, inserted rather cruelly by Christof into Truman's childhood, is how to overcome his fear of being on, or indeed over, water. He panics and can't cross the bridge for his work early in the film, and this fear will play a larger part later in Truman's story. Not only do we maintain focus on Truman and the characters around him, we're also given the chance to see what the outside world, the show's audiences around the world, have to say in various vignettes spliced into the film. These are all relatable characters, sitting at work watching the show or in their own homes, absorbed by what they're seeing, and commenting on Truman as if he's a family member. It's no different to audiences these days idolising celebrities and feeling as if they have an affinity with them. One insightful soundbite sees two men discussing their frustrations of the show panning away from Truman and Meryl having sex, with the show's cameras instead focusing on mundane things in the background. Scenes like this highlight the film's superb script and enable us to see our voyeuristic selves in these civilians. It's when Truman sees people working on set with headphones on and picks up radio signals in his car on the way to work, with all of his actions being monitored by someone, that he starts to think that there is a conspiracy against him. When Truman confides this fear in best friend Marlon, played excellently by Noah Emmerich, that maybe I'm being set up for something, it's heartbreaking to see Truman hang on to every word coming out of his friend's mouth, trying to reassure him, when we can see that it's actually Christof, the show's creator, talking to Marlon in his earpiece, instructing him on exactly what to say to Truman. Despite the film having a number of brilliant standout moments, for emotional effect, this is the film's highlights. It's not until we're introduced to Natasha McElhenney's Sylvia, however, that we learn of Truman's true intentions. Sylvia is introduced in a flashback sequence with Truman as a young man, where she's trying to convince him that this is all a setup and he needs to go and find her as she's about to be removed from the show. From here, a new love interest, Laura Linney's Meryl, is written in for Truman and he goes on with his life. But he doesn't forget about Sylvia and trying to find her again. It's not until Truman tricks the show's creators and cameras and manages to disappear that the story begins to reach its cathartic denouement. On day 10,913, Christof cuts transmission of the show while the cast and crew scour the town looking for their star. It turns out that Truman defies Christof and his fears by taking to sea. It's down to Christof now, who has control of the elements in this fabricated world, to capsize Truman in his boat and get him to turn back to the safety of the island. The moment that Truman discovers the truth is a wonderful moment of acting from Carrey and direction from Weir. Knowing that he's been living a lie torments Truman, but he's still got his catchphrase to have the last laugh against these false gods. In case I don't see ya, good afternoon, good evening, and good nights. There really is nothing like The Truman Show. To say it's one of the most vital films of our time is a gross understatement. Between them, Nicole and Weir have crafted a tight, finely woven narrative for Truman Burbank, and Jim Carrey has imbued the protagonist with the everyman quality that would make actors like James Stewart sit up and take notice. Gone is the gurning and rubber mass prosthetics, and in its place is a nuanced performance with a terrific set of supporting stars following closely behind. Happy 20th anniversary to one of the most intelligent, engaging films in as many years. We implore you to check out The Truman Show if you haven't yet done so. From Crawford-Clark Close-Up, it's nothing less than... What are your thoughts on The Truman Show? Do you agree with us that this is probably Jim Carrey's career best performance? Or were you underwhelmed by Truman's story and its execution? If you like this review, please subscribe to the channel for more. And whatever your thoughts, we'd love to hear from you. So leave your thoughts in the comments below. Come and find Crawford-Clark Close-Up on Facebook and Twitter, and you can also email us your suggestions for the channel to crawfordclarkcloseup@gmail.com. Stay tuned because we'll shortly be celebrating another film anniversary. Next up, we're going back 50 and 70 years respectively with two classic retellings of Charles Dickens' classic Oliver Twist. Thanks for watching, and until next time, that's a wrap.